What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition. Oh, I gotta turn it off. Apparently, it doesn't just stop on its own. Welcome to another edition of the Morning Grind podcast. I am your host today, TJ Zwarych, subbing in for our guy Stevie TPFL. Apologies for the late show today, but we're still ready to break down this 12-game MLB DFS slate. I am joined by my guy Keith Eyster. How you doing, Keith?
Not too bad. I'm trying to recover from this Darvish blow up here on Monday night. I was under the field, but still had a little too much. And San Diego hasn't done anything with the bats either, so I'm not a Padres fan tonight.
I mean, did you not just do exactly as I said in the expert survey, word for word? You play Darvish and cash, you go full fade in tournaments today.
Lovely.
But no, we're not going to rub that in. I actually took the day off for DFS, and I just did some sports betting stuff, and so I got a parlay going right now with Ellie De La Cruz and to hit a home run, and so that one went, and then with Castillo to hit 7 or more strikeouts, and CJ Abrams to hit 2 or more bases. So if I can get one these Blue Jays guys to hit a home run, things are going to be cooking for me a little bit, but we don't care about that. People want to talk about Tuesday's slate. We got 12 games. We might as well dive right into this one. I'm going to pull up the lineups page here, so I don't have a total ahead of me quite for this first game, but we got the Battle of New York. It's the Mets at the Yankees. Interesting one in this one. We got Verlander at Herman, two guys who have really been blown up at times this year, two guys who have really looked good at times this year. Obviously, Verlander with his former pedigree, but hasn't quite looked as strong this year, but playing better recently. Herman has gotten kicked out of some games for some sticky stuff, has looked like the best pitcher in the league some games and just like an absolute bum in others. Do you have any interest in Justin Verlander tonight?
I don't think I can do it. First of all, he's got a huge ballpark downgrade going into Yankee Stadium from Citi Field. And you mentioned it. He's just been a little too inconsistent here this season. Good outing last time against the White Sox. The Yankees aren't near as scary with Aaron Judge still on the shelf, but just the ballpark downgrade. And we have 12 games. There's a ton of options here. He's 9,100. There are a lot of other cheaper pitchers that I prefer over Verlander today.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think Verlander, maybe in 150 lineups, I don't know if I'll necessarily be Xing him out of the pool. It's a 12-game slate. I'll have to kind of see where I'm at and just diving into this really as a first look right now. So Verlander maybe is going to be in my MME pool, but I don't think somebody that I'm really looking to consider outside of 150 lineup build type scenario. What about Domingo Germán, 8,300 on DraftKings, coming in a little bit cheaper, going up against the Mets?
Not a huge fan of Herman either. The Mets have struggled a little bit. His strikeout rate is 25%. He's looked really good at times, like you mentioned. Obviously, has that perfect game on his record. Not one of my favorite guys in this range, but certainly in play. Just the savings from Verlander, the Mets struggling a little bit on offense. I think he's in play, but probably won't be a huge part of my pitching exposure. Yeah,
I think I'm with the same. I'm on the same page as you, and I honestly feel very similarly to what I said about Verlander. I feel like we could just kind of run it back. MME, yeah, I think he's 100% in consideration. Just with that price tag, he's not very expensive. He could potentially put up a big game for that, but 8.5 total in this one. Ballpark upgrade for the Mets. I don't really feel the need too heavily to go to pitching in this one. How about bats, though? Are you interested in any of the Mets bats going up against Domingo Germán?
I certainly think they're in play because of the ballpark upgrade. I don't know if it's a full stack for me. I do think Germán is a talented pitcher, even if he can be inconsistent at times. There are some real weak pitchers on this slate that we're going to have the chance to attack. But because of the ballpark, I don't mind hunting some home runs here. I would prefer to do it with lefties. Lindor looks really good. He's 4,800. That's a fair enough price. Can always play Pete Alonso in any matchup, especially with his recent slump here. He's down to 4,500. That's a really nice price on Pete Alonso. Alvarez is a mid-range catcher that I don't mind. There's some cheap young guys as well that have a little power, depending on who's in the lineup. Vientos or Beatty. Beatty is more than likely probably in there. I don't mind him at 2,500. But again, it'd be more of a three-man stack or just hunting home runs for me.
Yeah, I feel similarly. I don't think Alonso is going to be somebody I want to go with. I want to give him just some more time to recover from that wrist injury. It seems like they pulled him back a little bit too early, but Lindor, Alvarez, even somebody is a one-off that I don't mind. And if you want to stack up this team, I like the idea of just playing a near minimum price Vogelbach instead of Pete Alonso and kind of use this team as a salary saving option. I'm gonna have to wait and to see on Tuesday, like look at scores and odds and see what the odds are for Brandon Nimmo to hit a home run, because he's been hitting with a lot more power this year. We talked about like in lefties against Herman. He's been somebody I like betting some home runs for this year, because he's kind of so often priced around like plus 600, plus 700. Which is in the past pretty reasonable for him, but he's hit with quite a bit more power this year. So he's somebody that I like going to. What about these Yankees going up against Justin Verlander? Verlander has been a bit of a reverse splitsy guy, but outside of Stanton, maybe Torres and Bader, there's not a whole lot of righty power in this lineup without Judge.
Yeah, there's really not. And if Verlander were cheaper, I would have more interest in him, even though the strikeouts are down this year. But it is a weak Yankees lineup. I think it's the guys that you mentioned, Stanton, Torres, and Bader would be my primary leans. You can certainly play Rizzo as well. There's that short porch in Yankee Stadium down the right field line, so certainly he could still hit one here. Don't love it as a full stack. Just Verlander is still got some skills in there, even if they haven't shown up as often.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Honestly, this might be a game that not in the MME situation, but in single entry stuff, even 3-entry max, even going up to 10. I might just hit the X button on this game and try and shorten it, make it 11 game slate, and maybe even smaller, depending on some of these other games that we go through. We got a few people joining us live on YouTube. Make sure you're hitting that like button. We appreciate you tuning in live, and those tuning in either on YouTube afterwards, hit the like button as well. And even you on the podcast feeds, we appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully we'll be able to help you make some money. Let's go on to the next game on this slate. We got Colorado at Washington. 9.5 total and this one which is pretty big for a Colorado game, not at Coors. Austin Gomber at Trevor Williams. It's a 12 game slate. We probably can save some. We got to find some time to save time. Should we just skip pitchers because we're not playing Austin Gomber or Trevor Williams?
Certainly not. I mentioned some pitchers we wanted to attack on this slate. This would be two of them.
Exactly. And so let's start with the Colorado Bats going up against Trevor Williams. This team's pretty beat up right now with Blackman on the IL, Bryant and Crone missing games right now. If Bryant and Crone are out, it's going to be tough to want to target this lineup too much. Ryan McMahon got scratched before the game on Monday. It'll be interesting to see what kind of lineup they put out. But even if these guys are out, I don't hate the idea of going with some Diaz, Nolan Jones, Grichuk as a cheap mini stack.
Yeah, I'm with you. I said the same thing on Monday night, and even played a little Patrick Corbin, I'm ashamed to admit, because the lineup was so weak. But they're sitting here with 10 runs as we're recording. So good for Colorado. I still don't think they're a great offense, but Trevor Williams isn't very good either. So certainly don't mind them. They're cheap enough. You can make it a full stack and pay up twice for pitching, I think is certainly viable on this slate. A little concerned about the upside, but they've obviously proven that they can do it against a weak pitcher. They get another week one here today. So definitely don't mind the Colorado stack.
We talked on the morning grind last night, Chief and I, when we were on, and we said, Yu Darvish, interesting play if he's coming in low owned. If he's high owned, don't play we're not really interested in Yu Darvish at all. He got lit up. Patrick Corbin, another potential cheap chalky guy, said, don't play yourselves any Patrick Corbin. The cheap guy I wanted to go with as a sneaky SP2 was Ryan Yarbrough. He didn't really strike anybody out, but managed to go 6 innings. So I kind of wish I would have played.
Sounds like you would have had a pretty big night.
Because it probably would have been a good night based on what we said on the morning grind and how things went in the expert survey. But unfortunately, that's kind of how this baseball season's gone for me a little bit. I'm excited for NFL season to start. But how about Washington going up against Austin Gomber? I love taking this Washington team against left-handed pitching. They don't really strike out against anybody, but they got a bit more power against those lefties, and they are cheap. CJ Abrams, even in the lefty-lefty matchup, continues to lead off and has just been absolutely lights out since being bumped up to that leadoff status. Lane Thomas was removed from Monday's game, so he might be out of the lineup. That's typically the guy that we want to target the most against left-handed pitching for Washington, but even Candelario, Ruiz, Meneses, Riley Adams, Stone, if he's in there instead of Ruiz, Stone Garrett, maybe even Alex Call. I really like these guys as a cheap stack.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Very cheap, and they've been decent against lefties. I was concerned Monday about their upside. They're putting up runs as well. This is a fantastic matchup here against Gomber, who's he's not a good starting pitcher, even outside of Coors. Love the way they line up. Hopefully Thomas is back in there. Like you said, he's got awesome numbers against lefties this year. Candelario, a guy I do have a bunch of Monday night, had a big game. Look for him to do that again here in this spot. I like the Stone Garrett call, another cheap outfielder. Alex Call is at the bottom of the order. Always don't mind playing the 9-hitter in any lineup for that wraparound stack. Washington very much in play.
Derek in chat saying that Lane Thomas took a fastball to the thigh, and that's why he was removed from the game. So probably nothing too serious. It'll really just
Charlie horse, hopefully.
Yeah, just depend on how stiff he wakes up Tuesday morning on whether or not he cracks the lineup, I would assume. Let's take it over to the next one. We have Atlanta at Boston. Nick Pivetta expected to be the long man in this one after Brendan Bernardino starts. Charlie Morton on the other side for Atlanta. No total in this one yet. Obviously, we're not going to be playing Bernardino, but do you have any interest in Nick Pivetta with the last time he came in just absolutely breaking the slate for anybody who wanted to take a shot on him? Are you willing to go back there against Atlanta?
Oh man, this is an extreme boomer bust spot, but I think in 150 you can get some exposure. I probably don't get there in 20 lineups. Even if I was making 50, I'm probably not getting there. But as a deep tournament throw, like I know the Braves are awesome. It's in Fenway Park, which is a really tough place to pitch. You know what? I'm retracting. I'm taking Pivetta off the board. Even in 150, I don't think you get there. Atlanta's just too good. Ballpark is amazing for hitting. Take him away.
I'm with you. Atlanta is just too strong of a team. I don't think we can go there. What about Morton on the other side? Is he somebody you're going to be looking to play on this 12-game slate? 9.3. It's a fine price tag. It's okay, but it doesn't really stand out against a team like Boston.
Yeah, Boston I hate picking on because they just don't strike out very much. We're not getting much of a discount at all here. Tough ballpark to pitch in. Probably leave Morton on the shelf today too.
Yeah, I agree with you. Maybe in a 150 max setting, but similarly to, I feel like Morton, Verlander, and Herman kind of put all these guys in the same boat. And I feel similarly, if you want to keep him in your 150 max pool, not going to yell at you, but also probably not somebody I'm looking to target in anything less than that. What about the bats? Atlanta, we want to play Atlanta against anybody. They have a ballpark upgrade. We like Atlanta, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They're expensive, but there are some mispriced pitchers on this slate that we're going to get to, which is why I changed my mind on Pivetta in the first place. I forgot about those guys later on in the slate. Atlanta's the best offense in baseball. They're loaded with power all throughout the lineup, and they get an awesome park for power here. This is a fantastic spot. Atlanta might be the top stack on the slate.
Use some of those cheap pitchers, get yourself some Acuna and some Olsen, but honestly, you can full stack this team without breaking the bank. Go with your Harris, Ozuna, Rosarios, play some Arcia. If Travis d'Arnaud makes the lineup as opposed to Murphy, I think it'll be Murphy in this one, but if d'Arnaud happens to crack it, he's not all that expensive either. So whether you're going with the back half or the front half, Atlanta's a fantastic stack. I don't think I'm going to be playing any Boston, maybe just Rafael Devers.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I like Devers as a one-off. As a full stack, Morton is still a solid pitcher, even though he's getting up there in age. Just don't see the upside for Boston today.
Yeah, I'm with you. No Boston for me either. Let's save some time. Take it to the next game. We got the Royals at the Guardians. Zach Greinke against Aaron Savali, 8.5 total. I don't think I can really ever play any Zach Greinke unless it's like a 4-game slate maybe, and there's not many other pitchers. But what about Aaron Savali today? Is that somebody you're going to be looking to get to at 7,200?
I think because of the price and because of the matchup that we have to have a little interest here. Kansas City has just been atrocious. They're all the way down. They're the worst offense in baseball at this point. 70 WRC plus against right-handed pitching, and they strike out at 24% of the time. So a fantastic matchup. Savali is not a guy that I like to play often. Strikeout rate is under 20% this year. We saw it a little higher than that last season. So I think there's some room up on the strikeouts, but they have been below average this season. Because of the matchup, though, I do still have some interest here.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's because anybody who plays Kansas City, you usually have to have somewhat of an interest in these guys. So Aaron Savali, I think, is absolutely on the list as an SP2 that you can go to. Zach Greinke on the other side.
He faced him earlier this month. He went 7 innings and struck out 9. Not that we need to be watching game logs, but just as a point of reference, he did have a fantastic outing against these guys last time.
He goes 6 and strikes out 7, and you're absolutely thrilled. Yep. So you don't even need that same type of output to get something strong out of him at that price. Greinke's only 5,600, but I still don't think you can play him. Kansas City against Savali, is that somebody that you're going to be looking to stack up?
Probably not a stack for me. Like I said, I don't think Savali is anything more than an average starting pitcher, but just this Royals, I know for a fact, is below average, extremely below average. I think you can certainly play Witt or Sal Perez as one-offs, but that's probably all I'm interested in.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. Maybe if you're double paying up a pitcher somewhere and you want to mix in some cheap guys, you can get some KC bats in as a mini stack. But outside of that, I don't think there's a lot of point. Cleveland has been pretty terrible all season long until recently. They're finally starting to pick things up a little bit, especially against right-handed pitching. Josh Naylor has been hitting with more power. Jimenez is picking it up. Josh Bell's picking it up a little bit. And of course, Jose Ramirez is always in play. And at 5,300 on DraftKings, he's nice and cheap too. How do you feel about Cleveland?
Yeah, I still am concerned about the lack of power. They have been better recently. You're definitely right about that. Naylor is a guy who's been swinging a really good bat. I like him at 4K. Always can play Jose Ramirez. This is a fantastic spot for him. Jimenez at 3,600, I don't mind. Quan at 3,800, like he's cheap enough. I think you can play him, even though he's one of those guys that struggles in the power department. He does make up for it a little bit with a high average and a lot of stolen bases. So probably not a full stack. I'm fine with them as a 3-man.
Yeah, I feel very similarly. Get him in there as a mini stack, but probably not a full stack. It's tough because you can't play Naylor and Bell together. And so I kind of like going one of them, throw in Ramirez, throw in Jimenez, and that's your mini stack that you roll with right there. Seattle at Minnesota. No total, or 7.5 total in this one. We got a couple of the top pitchers on the slate, George Kirby and Pablo Lopez. First off, do you have any interest in George Kirby going up against Minnesota in their high strikeout lineup?
I definitely do. So we just saw this matchup, 5 days ago? On the 20th, they matched up, and Kirby was lights out, 7 innings, 10 strikeouts. I'm going right back to him. Now Byron Buxton is out of the lineup as well. I know Minnesota beat up on Seattle a little bit in the games following that gem that Kirby threw. Blew up, I think it was Gilbert that was a chalk pitcher one day, and Minnesota got to him. And then I forget who started the third game, but Kirby was fantastic. He's only 8,700. He's not a huge strikeout guy, but he more than makes up for it with the best control in baseball. Walk rate is down around 2.5%, which is just absolutely elite. And that allows him to work deeper into games. Even though he doesn't have a massive leash, he still works regularly into the 6th and 7th inning because he doesn't run up his pitch count with walks. So because he gets a high strikeout matchup here, I think that raises the ceiling. I think 8,700 is a little too cheap for him.
8,700 is absolutely a little too cheap for him. I think he's going to be in the cash game consideration. But this is somebody I feel very similarly to Darvish as last night. If he's going to end up being the guy that ends up like 40% owned on a 12-game slate, not only do I want to roll with a fade, but I actually want to stack up Minnesota because Kirby is a great real-life pitcher. Minnesota strikes out a ton, absolutely, but especially against right-handed pitching. Minnesota has a bunch of power. We're probably going to see two right-handed batters in that lineup without Buxton, just Correa and either Vasquez or Jeffers, whichever catcher starts. Everyone else we're going to see probably hits left. Kirby's only got a 20% K rate to lefties this year, 48.8% hard hit rate, 201 ISO. I want to stack up this Minnesota team if Kirby's going to be really chalky. And so not maybe a full stack, but roll with Julian, Kirilloff, Kepler, something like that. Maybe mix in a little Joey Gallo. I think that's a very, very interesting sneaky stack that's super cheap, maybe allows you to get to a team like Atlanta. If you're playing a few Atlanta bats and you just mix in some of these 2K Minnesota bats, I think that's a really, really strong way to differentiate in tournaments. Pardon me. How about Pablo Lopez going up against Seattle, another high strikeout team?
Yeah, I think you got to play for the upside here. Seattle has some power, so they can be a risky opponent to attack. Pablo's been a little inconsistent. He was having a fantastic start to the season. Then he fell off for a little bit. Then he's picked it back up a little bit. He went just 5 innings his last time out against Seattle. He did have 7 strikeouts, but I think you could see him rebound and he could have a monster game here because of all the strikeouts in the Seattle lineup, like you mentioned. He's expensive. You have to pay for it, but I think that keeps the ownership down. I think he's going to be a great play for tournaments.
A lot of strikeouts in the Seattle lineup and also a lot of righties. We're going to see Crawford and Ford in there, I'm sure, but maybe Cade Marlowe, who just got called up as a lefty, but maybe not. And so we might not even get 3 lefties. There might only be 2 in this lineup. And Lopez has been absolutely elite to righties this season. Almost 33% K rate, 47% ground ball percentage. And so I think he's arguably the highest upside pitcher on the slate, but there definitely is one other guy in particular that I think is going to be my main SP1 if I'm looking to rack up a lot of points, maybe 2 that I would rank ahead of Lopez, but I think just 1, but we'll get to those guys later. How about bats in this one? I don't think I want to play Seattle going up against Lopez at all, but we talked Minnesota against Kirby. I think that's very interesting for tournaments. Would that be something you'd want to do at all?
I'm not as high on them as you were. I think you made some excellent points. Kirby's a tough guy to stack against because he just doesn't allow any extra traffic because of the walk rate. I feel like he's a better strikeout pitcher than he has been so far this season. Obviously, he showed that his last time out. Doesn't mean it's going to continue in this one. I don't mind them as a mini stack, but I won't have a ton of exposure.
Yeah, I think that's if I were on the expert survey on Tuesday, I think that would be the team I'd write up for my sneaky stack because it's definitely risky going up against one of the top pitchers on the slate. But Minnesota is a team with a lot of left-handed power, so that's one that I'm interested in taking shots on in tournaments. We got Cincinnati at Milwaukee, 8 total in this one. Andrew Abbott facing Corbin Burns, strong pitching matchup. Do you have any interest in Andrew Abbott going into Milwaukee?
I do. He has just been awesome since coming up. Milwaukee has been terrible against left-handed pitching. I don't love the price tag because he's not a massive strikeout guy. He does have a couple of spike games where he racked up double-digit strikeouts, but I don't think you should expect that. So you probably need.
His rate to lefties has just been stupid this year. But like it'll be interesting to see how many lefties we see in this lineup, and it's also just been such a small sample size.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he's going to end up an above average strikeout pitcher. So I believe the strikeout rate, it just isn't there every game for him. Just being a young pitcher, I will have some exposure because I think he absolutely could strike out 10 guys in this spot. I don't think he does it more than, 50% of the time. Probably not even like 20% of the time is probably a more realistic number. 9,500. He'll be in the pool, but just a tournament dart throw, basically.
I feel like I'm talking more about splits on this slate than I typically would already because there just are quite a few pitchers that have some pretty extreme splits, like Kirby. And another one is Corbin Burns, but he's a very heavy reverse splits guy. Strikes out way more lefties, gets way more ground balls to lefties, and he gets hit way harder by righties. So reverse splits in basically every sense of his stats. And the Cincinnati team, You got McLean in there, you got Steer, you got Encarnacion Strand, maybe Tyler Stevenson, but not a lot of righty power you're worried about. It's mostly the lefties in this lineup. However, the Cincinnati lineup is still a much better lineup than we saw earlier in the year. How much interest do you have in Corbin Burnes?
So Cincinnati is a really good offense now with all the young talent that they've called up, but you made some excellent points there. Corbin Burnes has figured some things out. Back-to-back double-digit strikeout games. When this guy's right, he is, for my money, probably the best pitcher in baseball. I mean, with DeGrom on the shelf for sure. I know Strider's taken huge steps forward, but Corbin Burnes, I mean, for a long time was just unhittable. He has that cutter that he absolutely dominates lefties with. So the reverse splits are very real. There's very clear data that shows that. And I agree. There's not a lot of threats to be afraid of here. And if Burnes is right, I don't care what the matchup is. I'm just going to play him. 9,200 is too cheap for his upside. I could absolutely see 10 strikeouts here. That being said, I could also see Cincinnati getting to him a little bit, hitting a couple of home runs. But I will certainly have some exposure to Corbin Burnes.
Yeah, I agree 100%, especially because Cincinnati has even a lot of their left-handed hitters who are really strong power guys like Dela Cruz, hardcore ground ball hitters so far in their careers. And so it really lines up well with Burnes' skill set. It's going to depend on ownership for me, but if he comes in overlooked, which I think he kind of will because Cincinnati is a strong offense and there's so many good pitchers on this slate, I will really, really like Corbin Burnes as a tournament play. How about offenses in this one? I'm not even going to give it to a specific team because it's a 12-game slate. Stevie's not here. I can do whatever the hell I want. I think I can say that. I think heck, just in case. But Cincinnati and Milwaukee, do you have any interest in either of these teams? Because I don't think I'll be getting there outside of maybe like Jake Fraley one-off, William Contreras one-off.
Yeah, two really good pitchers, so I don't feel the need to. I'm definitely not stacking. You can always hunt for home runs. I think Burnes was a side I would rather try to do that on, just because he has shown some struggles. Encarnacion Strand is still cheap. He has big power, 3K. I don't mind trying to find a cheap home run there. Steer, I think, would be my favorite. If I was just trying to pick a guy to hit a home run, Steer would be the guy at 4,500, but definitely not a stack for me.
Yeah, I like maybe Matt McLean as a potential one-off play too. If you land on a mini stack and you get 2-3 of them, I don't think that's the worst thing, but definitely not a team I'd be targeting at all unless I was playing 150, and still then probably not very much. We got the Battle of New York's at the start of the slate, but we also got the Battle of Chicago's. And if I'm not mistaken, Keith, you're a Chicago guy, so we definitely want to be weighing into your thoughts on this one. We got the Cubs at the White Sox. I have, in fact, hit a single at Guaranteed Rate Field thrown by one of their pitching coaches at the World Fantasy Baseball Live Final for FanDuel last year. And so that was fun. We went to Guaranteed Rate, got to see Squirrel, got to see Christie, got to see Dre. Had some fun times. I didn't hit any dingers, but hit a couple singles. Christie actually was hammering some balls over the infield that definitely would have made it into the outfield, popped in there for some singles and doubles. But anyways, not the important singles and doubles. We want the singles and doubles and the home runs from this one. 9 total. Kyle Hendricks, Michael Kopech. Starting things off with Hendricks, the road guy. Do you have any interest going up against the White Sox?
I'm not scared of the White Sox, but I don't think that I can play Hendricks on a 12-game slate. He just doesn't have the strikeout upside. He's all the way down at 16% on the season. He's been pretty good. Underlying metrics say there's a little regression coming, though. Just not enough upside.
You are left with 7K left in your lineup. You need an SP2. You can't quite afford Aaron Savali. Do you leave Kyle Hendricks, Nick Pivetta, or maybe Steven Matz, something like that in there, or do you just readjust your lineup?
Can you give me 100 for Kopech?
Nope.
If I can't get Kopech, oh man, I think Pavetta's been striking everybody out. Like, he's probably going to get torched, but he could also rack up strikeouts. I don't see a scenario where Hendricks gets more than like 6 strikeouts would be his absolute ceiling, I feel like. I wouldn't blow up my lineup. If I absolutely loved everything else, I'm fine leaving Hendricks in there, but it would have to be that scenario only.
Michael Kopech on the other side, sounds like you might have a little bit of interest in him. He was lights out earlier in the year. Looked like he was finally living up to his potential. He's always been a guy I've loved because he got one of those young prospect elite cards in MLB The Show a couple years ago. And so he was like 99 overall with a 101 fastball. And he was like really, really him and Garrett Crochet actually, who pitched this Monday evening, two guys who you get those rookie cards and they'd have crazy stats for, but he was lights out. He really started struggling. Then they talked about he had an injury, got pulled from a game after 38 pitches. Nobody played him last slate, and it was people stacking up against him. Yeah. And he played a fantastic game up against the Mets. 5 Ks, 21 fantasy points, went 5 innings, 5 2/3 innings, and only 89 pitches. You got some interest in Kopech at 7.1K?
At 7,100, I think you have to chase the strikeout upside a little bit. He's had walk issues. That's been his bugaboo his whole career. He no longer has that 101 mile an hour fastball since the injuries. He still has plenty of stuff, though, and the strikeout ability is still in there. He gets a matchup against the Cubs, who have struck out a ton this season. At only 7,100, yeah, he could get blown up. He could walk 4 guys again. But at only 7,100, I'm willing to chase this very often in tournaments just because of the strikeout upside here against my Cubs.
Both of these offenses, to me, feel like teams that I really only want to target in like MME type settings. Hendricks isn't great. So absolutely the White Sox could get some hits off of them. But it's like you said, I don't really want to play any White Sox outside of maybe Luis Robert or Eloy Jimenez. You can always play them. On the other side of things, the Cubs, it's really a boom bust spot because if it's good Kopech, the Cubs are going to suck. And if it's bad Kopech, the Cubs could have 10 runs. But they're probably still going to only be in exclusive, like an MMB exclusive team for me. I'll get some full stacks of them, a couple one-offs. I'll play my Cody Bellinger. I love Cody Bellinger always. And if he's got some strong home run odds, I'll probably bet on him. But a full stack, I don't think I'm going to go there unless I'm running 150.
Yeah, I have a little more interest, I think. Like, as much as I like Kopech, it like you nailed it exactly when you said it's a boom bust spot, because absolutely the Cubs could hit 3 home runs off of Kopech and he could be out of the game by the 3rd inning or sooner. We've seen even Cody Bellinger is an awesome call. He's one of my favorite bats on the entire slate. I like Ian Happ a ton as well. He's really cheap, 3,400. Talkman, if he's in the leadoff spot, is fine, 3,300. Like, the Cubs are pretty cheap outside of Horner and Morel. Bellinger, I think, is more than worth his price tag, and then everybody else in the lineup is cheap. So I'm interested in the full stack, and it's just hoping that either Kopech has control issues again, runs up the pitch count really early, and we see a ton of the Sox bullpen, or they touch him up quite a bit and they hit a couple of home runs off him, and we get to the bullpen early that way. I think this Cubs stack has quite a bit of upside today.
There really haven't been all that many full stacks that I really like tonight so far, as this is why you got to tune in on YouTube and not just the podcast, so you get the video, because my dog Obi-Wan just felt the need to come say hello, and so you get the it's worth it for you to hit that like button, because you get the furry friends giving you baseball content as well.
Special guests.
Yeah, exactly. There's not that many full stacks I really like, and so based on that does kind of make me want to bump up these guys a little bit. I love Cody Bellinger, but I still don't know if I'm going to go to a full stack of this team. Maybe just because a guy like, you can throw in Mastro Buoni or whatever his name is at 2K, and he's nice and cheap, and so he fits. But I think this is mostly a spot I'd rather go like Tauchman, Happ, Bellinger, get those 3 guys in there. I think those are probably the 3 who could hit a homer, and then go from there. Next game we have on this one is pretty interesting. A few other boom bust spots. I think we got Owen White, 4K, going up against JP France. What can you tell me about Owen White? Is that the opener, and it's going to be Bradford behind him? What do we think we got going on for this game?
So I had Bradford listed.
Is Bradford the opener and White coming behind him? White is who we have in the RG page and on the RG starting lineups at 4K, and then DraftKings has Cody Bradford. coming in there. But like Bradford also is a guy that like, I mean, I guess he has pitched a lot before, but he typically doesn't go too deep.
Yeah, he definitely isn't going to go deep, even if he does get the start. Napsterman is usually on top of that news, and he's really good at setting lineups the night before. If he has Owen White, I'm going to lean that side of it and expect Owen White to open. Let me look up his pitch count in his last minor league start real quick.
I'm going to read the DK blurb while you do that. Texas optioned right-hander Glenn Otto to AAA to clear room on the 26-man active roster for White, who is up with the Rangers for the second time this season, with the Rangers opting to skip Eovaldi's turn through the rotation Tuesday against the Astros. White or Cody Bradford could be candidates to serve as the spot starter or multi-inning option out of the bullpen that day. And so it's probably going to be White, even though DraftKings has it listed as him right now. Owen White is 4K. He has started one other game, and he went only 2 innings, and he went up 3 earned runs. Do you think you can take a shot on a 4K guy?
He threw 69 nice pitches in his last minor league start. 60 the start before that, 57 the start before that. So he does not have a super long leash, even as a starter in the minor leagues. 4K is 4K, though. You can do a lot with the bats if you deploy a 4K pitcher. I can't commit to playing him right now, but I think that it's something that I will dive into a little bit deeper tomorrow. I'm not terrified of this Houston lineup, although Alvarez should be back tomorrow or today, I believe, which definitely hurts the case here to play.
That would basically make me not play him if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. But if Alvarez is out again, then I will dig into it a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. I agree. It's something I want to consider, maybe not 100% commit to the night before until we do a bit more of a deep dive. It's the benefit of the morning grind. This is a first look pod, and the Grinders Live crew, the expert survey crew, and the Crunch Time crew, they're going to have Cheese in his musings. They're going to have the breakdowns on Owen White for you there as well. Let's talk about bats. JP France going up against Texas. We're not playing JP France, right?
No, not against this Texas team.
All right, bats. What Texas against JP France? Are you interested in this Texas team? I believe still likely to be without Corey Seager.
Yeah, definitely without Seager. He was put on the IL. Adolis Garcia is the one that you need to keep your eye on as well. He missed Monday night as well. I think he left Sunday and then missed Monday, so it's two games. He was hitting the hand, which is never a fun thing for a hitter. If he's out of the lineup again, it does make the stack cheaper, which is nice. Because I'm not afraid of JP France. I have no problem using one of baseball's best offenses against him. Josh Jung at 4,600, one of my favorite bats. I really like Nate Lowe at 3,900. Very nice price on Nate Lowe there. Jankowski's been hitting in the 2-hole at 3,100. Not the most talented hitter, but there's some speed there. He's really cheap. Don't hate that. Tavares at 3K usually hits 9th. So if you want to wrap that around, certainly don't mind that either.
Not that we're that terrified of anybody against JP France, but he has been quite a bit better to lefties than he has been to righties this year. Righties are hitting them harder. They're striking out less, higher ISO, less ground balls, 61% rate to lefties, only a 34.5% ground ball rate to righties. So I love the Josh Young call. I think he's a great play. Ezekiel Duran in there as well. Marcus Semien. I think those would be the guys for one-offs I'd be most interested in going to. But Nate Lowe is just too cheap for a guy of his caliber as well. And so throw all these guys together, and it's like, well, damn, all of a sudden I got a full stack. And so I would actually like to see Ezekiel Duran maybe in that 2-hole instead of Jankowski, just looking at these reverse splits. I think that'd be pretty awesome if they do that. But that would probably make Duran one of my top plays on the slate. But I'll believe it when I see it. I don't know if we can expect that type of thing. What about Houston on the other side going up against probably Owen Miller?
Yeah, so upon further review of Owen White, that's going to be a big no.
Owen Miller's on Milwaukee.
Yeah, the hitter. Owen White's been pretty awful in AAA this year. The results have been okay, 3.94 ERA. but he doesn't strike anybody out, and he walks a ton of guys. 13.5% strikeouts, almost 15% walks. I don't think you can play him. I was going to stack up Houston even before I saw those numbers, just because, like, I don't think either one, even if it's Bradford, neither one's going deep here. Neither one is very good, to be honest. If Alvarez is back, that's a huge deal here. 5K, he would be my favorite, no matter if it's the lefty or the righty. Tucker is up there. He's very expensive, but certainly always in play. Don't think I can do Bregman at 6K. I know he's been better recently, but that's a lot to ask for Alex Bregman. Who's the catcher? Diaz at 4,500. If he's in the lineup, Abreu is cheap at 3,700. So have to see what the lineup looks like. Hopefully Jordan's in there. I would like this as a full stack if Jordan's in there. If he's not, then it's probably more of a mini stack for me.
Yeah, it's honestly with the way some of these guys have been hitting so far, like Bregman has been really hot lately. McCormick has been smashing the ball. Diaz has been great against righties all year, and really everybody all year. And so throw in Kyle Tucker, and I do like this team for tournaments. Not going to be one of my top teams on the board, but definitely in the mix for MME for sure. And I think kind of above those other teams that we said early that I was like maybe only for MME. This would be a team for me that's like firmly in MME, maybe even like a 20 max 10 entry type scenario as well. Next game on the slate, we got Pittsburgh. We got at San Diego, Rich Hill and Blake Snell, 8.5 total. We're not playing Rich Hill against the Padres, but Blake Snell, Keith, is, I think, my favorite spend-up pitcher on the entire slate.
He finally had a game that we weren't happy with. He was on quite a run there for 2 months. It was like almost 10 starts in a row where he was just lights out. He was striking out a ton of people, working fairly deep into the game for Blake Snell standards anyway. And then he comes out and he walks 7 guys against Toronto and just turns into full-on Blake Snell. He's going to do that to you from time to time, but for upside, he's awesome just because of that strikeout ability. Like, he shows up with double-digit strikeouts as often as anybody in the league. He gets a fantastic matchup here against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has struggled quite a bit to lefties. They have a 23.5% strikeout rate, so solid upside spot here for Snell. Definitely some risk. There's always risk with Blake Snell. That price tag, I think, like I mentioned with Lopez, I don't think people are going up here all that often on this huge slate. So I think he comes in fairly low owned, 15% tops, I would say. And I think he's a fantastic tournament play.
Now so Pittsburgh is a team that basically always rolls out very like all right-handed lineups against left-handed pitching. They take guys like Sawinski out of there. Marcano usually won't play against the lefty. And it's interesting that this could be very noisy because I feel like, well, there's only 82 at-bats for Blake Snell this year against left-handed bats, and those are probably just the best left-handed bats in the league. That's why they were still in the lineup against him. But he's got a 53.5 hard hit rate to lefties this year and only 34.5 to righties. And so if we do end up, and his strikeouts don't suffer whatsoever to the right side of the plate. And so if we do get this almost all right-handed lineup for Snell, I do think he's got some really strong upside and the ability as well to just mow down some guys with some ground balls, even if he runs into some walk issues. So I wouldn't call him the safest pitcher on the slate. I wouldn't even call him the best DFS play on the slate necessarily, but I think he's definitely got the highest upside on the slate.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
What about on the other? We're not playing Rich Hill, but in terms of bats, look, Pittsburgh against Blake Snell. He might, if you want to play him, play Pittsburgh because they're cheap and you think Snell might walk a bunch of times. Absolutely in consideration for GPPs. But I think probably San Diego is going to be the offense in this game we're a little more interested in.
Yeah, definitely. I don't mind some shots on Snell. Pittsburgh is cheap for one. And they've got a lot of young guys that they've recently called up who are solid prospects. Henry Davis is one. Endy Rodriguez is another one. He's a switch hitter, so I think he'll still be in the lineup. McCutchen is back. He's 4,500. Reynolds is stronger from the other side when he's facing righties. He's a better hitter from the left side. So I probably don't pay 5,400, but I don't mind even a full stack just because they're so cheap. It lets you pay up for pitching, and Snell can always have those blow up games. So Pittsburgh, it would be like a 1 in 20 type of play for me, but I wouldn't be surprised if I have at least one Pittsburgh stack. San Diego on the other side, definitely interested in this stack.
I feel like I can almost guarantee that one Pittsburgh stack you have will be with Pablo Lopez and Andrew Abbott.
That sounds like a good plan.
Because I'm just thinking like they're nice and cheap, right? The only other guy I'd need them to pay up for would be Snell, and it's way too big of a slate to go against your pitcher. So it's like that one Pittsburgh lineup you get in that 20 entry, you pair it with Lopez and Abbott, the other two expensive guys. I think that works.
Love it. San Diego in a great spot. Rich Hill, 43 years old or something like that. Doesn't have much left in the tank. San Diego's been hitting a little bit better here recently. Pricey on Tatis, but totally worth it. Massive upside. Soto is fine, even lefty, and having to pay up for him. Machado is probably point per dollar. My favorite play here, 5,400. Don't mind Kim either at 4,400. He's been leading off a little bit, especially against lefties. So really like Kim and his price tag. Sanchez, if he's in there, 3,500. Don't mind him as a catcher with some pop.
I think he's like, even honestly, I think Sanchez is borderline in play as a cash game option all the way down at 3,500. It seems like his price is going down. The algorithm seems to be docking him for games he's not playing. He was like all the way up at 4,500 and now he's down to 35. And so especially against the lefty, if he happens to grab like a spot 5th or 6th in the lineup and he's not all the way down 7 or 8, I think he might end up being like my top catcher on the slate.
Yeah, love the matchup for him against the lefty, a low strikeout lefty at that. Rich Hill's got less than 20% strikeouts on the year, so awesome spot for Sanchez.
Various books have also had some crazy odds on Xander Bogaerts this year to hit home runs. He's been frequently at like plus 800, plus 900 at different spots. So if you see that out there again on Tuesday against the lefty, definitely take some shots on that one as well against a guy like Rich Hill. 3 games left, big slate, late at night. We're getting through it. We got the Cardinals at the Diamondbacks, Mats at Gallen. No total in this one yet. Do you have any interest in Steven Matz, nice and cheap, going up against Arizona?
Nope, I really don't. I know he's been okay here recently. Just Arizona is a really tough team to pick on. They don't strike out very much. They're pesky. They get on base a lot. They run a lot. If I was trying to find somebody in here, we talked about if I had to play Kyle Hendricks, would I? I think Matz is my preferred 6K guy, but I'm hoping that Kopech is the lowest I need to go today.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't really want to go lower than Kopech, and I never want to target people against Arizona, and especially not a left-handed pitcher, I don't think. And so I'm probably not going to be getting to any Steven Matz. What about Zach Gallen on the other side? Very tough matchup, but this is a guy that, I mean, hey, if the NL Cy Young doesn't go to Spencer Strider, it's probably going to Zach Gallen.
Yeah, definitely in play just because of the upside. Sorry, Merrill Kelly was listed on DK. I assume that it's Gallen. Kelly is actually currently on the IL, so I guess DraftKings is assuming that he's coming off the injured list. But yeah, Gallen has that huge strikeout rate, 26%, very solid. St. Louis has been an underperforming offense all season long, so it's a tough spot for him. They're still an above average offense. They're just not the elite offense that we thought they were going to be. But Gallen is always in play. Do you have a price tag there? I guess I can look it up too.
9.1
91. Yeah, I mean, it's a fair enough price. We've paid 10K for Gallen before. I think he will be in the pool just for that strikeout upside.
Yeah, 100% in the pool. I'm interested to see how many lefties we get in this lineup. Gorman kind of expected to be back in there, but Gallen is a guy that's actually struck out more lefties so far this season. So while I do have interest in him, let's run it over to the bats. I actually do think I have interest in the Cardinals going up against him as well. Not in like a single entry type scenario, but if you're running a lot of lineups or you're playing something in a large field, I think I feel very similarly to the Cardinals as I do, even though they're totally different prices, totally different teams, as the Twins. Of like, yeah, I might want to play this good pitcher against them, but I also think they have pretty high upside as a sneaky stack.
Yeah, I can get on board with that, especially with some of the pricing here. You've got Tyler O'Neill still really cheap at 3,700. Newt Bar, if he's leading off again at 4K, or Donovan has been leading off a little bit, 3,700. Jordan Walker has huge power. He's 3K, 2,900. DeJong is 3K. So, I mean, outside of Goldschmidt and Arenado, there really isn't anybody that's priced up. They're honestly a value stack.
Yeah, they are, which is not something you typically consider a team like St. Louis as, but they're priced that way outside of the big two. If you're paying down for one of your pitchers, you can probably get at least one of Goldschmidt or Arenado in there. I think they're a very strong stack, but an even stronger stack, I think, belongs to Arizona. I talked about how there aren't all that many teams I like as a full stack so far. There's the Padres, there's the Cubs, and maybe Texas, Atlanta, and maybe Minnesota. But Arizona, I think, is going to be one of those teams among the top of my list, maybe up there close to Atlanta on this slate.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. They're a very good offense. They line up really well against lefties. Christian Walker is one of my favorite bats on the entire slate. Love Ketel Marte as well. Corbin Carroll, 6K, lefty. Don't care. If he gets on base, he can steal. Load him up. He has amazing upside, even in a lefty-lefty matchup. If Longoria cracks the lineup, he's cheap. Rivera has been hitting pretty well lately, 3,400. I'm right there with you. Arizona is in the top tier today for sure.
Oakland at San Francisco, not two offenses we typically want to target. No total yet. We got Ken Waldichuk at Alex Cobb. Waldichuk is all the way down at 5.2K. I don't care. I'm not playing Ken Waldichuk. Are you?
No, I'm not playing Ken Waldichuk.
Alex Cobb, on the other hand, 7.6. I think we got to consider as one of the top point per dollar arms on the slate.
He absolutely is. I like that he got blown up a little bit in his last start because I still think he's going to be pretty popular. But if he had just kept stringing together solid starts, he would be mega chalk in this spot. We love picking on Oakland. Alex Cobb, for my money, is a very good starting pitcher. The strikeouts haven't quite been there this season. He didn't record one single strikeout. He got 10 ground balls in his last start against Cincinnati. Maybe he was purposely trying to do that because he was in Great American Ballpark. There's strikeout stuff in there when he needs there to be. And Oakland is a team that strikes out a ton. So 7,600 for Cobb with one of the best matchups that you can ask for. Sign me up. Ownership is the only concern.
Yep, 100%. I am with you on that one. I don't really think I want to play much Oakland against him again. Maybe it's like a just cheap stack only, it's mini stack only scenario. But San Fran against Waldichuk, we are going to have to worry about pinch hit risk, but it's going to be interesting to see what type of lineup they throw out there. And if we get guys like Conforto or Yaz in there against the lefty, that'll make things nicer of just guys you can mix in there and they're not going to get pinch hit for. But even guys who have some risk, Bailey, Davis probably doesn't have any risk, but Flores, these are some really strong plays tonight.
Yeah, I hate when San Francisco sets up well against a lefty because that pinch hit risk is so frustrating.
You have to have some off JD Davis.
Yeah, there you go. Wilmer Flores had a monster game as big time chalk not too long ago. I think he had 2 home runs.
He's had a monster stretch lately in general.
Yeah, he really has been on fire. I certainly love him. You can always play him against a lefty. There's always going to be that risk that he gets taken out after two at bats, but you kind of just plug him in and live with it. Slater always has massive pinch hit risk. It's not fun, but I think you have to have interest just because of how good of a spot it is.
Yeah, I agree. Like, even if you're just going to mini stack one of the lefties or Slater alongside Flores and Davis, maybe, or you mix in some Patrick Bailey in there. I like this team quite a bit going up against Waldichuk and that terrible Oakland bullpen. They're going to be one of my, if not favorites as a full stack. This might end up being a slate where I just end up getting like 3 mini stacks in a single entry style lineup as opposed to a full stack, which is very rare for a 12-game slate. Like, usually on a 12-game slate, I'm more likely to stack, but there's just so many of these teams where there's individual bats or like 3 bats sticking out as opposed to the entire team. And I feel like San Fran is kind of one of them. Final game of the night, we got the Dodgers and Toronto. This game's playing right now on Monday as we speak. We got Bassett going at Julio Arias. Chris Bassett, strong pitcher, but he struggles against lefties, which the Dodgers have a lot of, and a lot of really good ones. Julio Urias, way too expensive for me to have any interest in playing. But in terms of the bats against him, the Blue Jays should stack up beautifully against lefties, and they've been one of the very worst offenses in baseball against left-handed pitching this year. So starting with the pitching, do you have any interest in Chris Bassett at 7,500?
He is cheap, but boy, is it a tough matchup. Like you said, the Dodgers line up pretty well against him. He's had one of the widest splits in all of baseball. He's been just absolutely destroyed by left-handed pitching. He's been really solid against righties. But you mentioned the Dodgers do have quite a few lefties that they can throw at him with Muncy, and then most of their outfield is left-handed, Outman, Hayward, Peralta if he's in there. But yeah, too many lefties here, too good of an offense. I don't think I'm going after Bassett. He is cheap. I could see it working out, but probably don't need it on the slate.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think you need it. I fear against a team like the Dodgers that, like, sure, he might go 6 innings against them, but it'll probably be with 4 or 5 earned runs and only 4 or 5 strikeouts. And so it's probably just, I can't imagine too many scenarios on a slate that's big that we would need him. So no Bassett for me. Julio Urias at that price tag, nope. Next.
Yeah, I'm out too. Like, I know you said Toronto's been one of the worst offenses in baseball against lefties. That doesn't make any sense. I don't expect that to really continue. And Urias just doesn't have the leash for 9,600. He rarely goes over 90 pitches.
It's infuriating.
Yeah, I can imagine. He was at 93 pitches last time out, and he didn't pitch well, but they needed length from him in that game. It's the only reason he was out there that long. He gave up 8 runs, which is uncharacteristic. He's a better pitcher than that. But tough spot here against Toronto. He's more than likely going to land in that 85 to 90 pitches range. I don't see the ceiling here for 9,600.
No cheating. But what Matt Chapman has the highest ISO against lefties this season on the Blue Jays. He's got a 231 ISO. Who has the second highest ISO to lefties on their team, and what do you think it is? Just counting this year's stats.
I mean, obvious guess would be Vlad, but I know that he has struggled mightily against lefties this year. I'm going to go Bo Bichette 140.
And so, okay, shoot. Actually, Bo wasn't in the lineup. I was just looking at Monday's lineup, and Bo wasn't in it. But yeah, Bo I think is actually at like 180 against lefties.
Yeah.
But just like this lineup that they threw out on Monday, we have Vladimir Guerrero is at a 0.037 ISO.
Holy cow.
Lefties this year.
I guess struggling would be an understatement.
Despite a 55.3% hard hit rate. It truly makes no sense. But anyways, second in the lineup today, but you're right. Bichette absolutely would have been higher. Is Whit Merrifield with a 104 ISO.
Oh,
they've just
104 is not good.
Yeah, so like Bichette will be. He just got a little break on Monday. He'll be back in there, even though he's been struggling lately. But he has been their second best hitter against lefties this year. But it's been tough. Obviously, Jansen's been fine too, but he's hurt right now. So. Having said that, Urias hasn't been very great either, and the Blue Jays are due for negative or positive regression against lefties. They're not going to be this bad when they're hitting the ball this hard. I still think I have some interest in a contrarian Blue Jays stack.
Yeah, I'm with you. There's clearly something going on with Urias. They're in play. I wish they were a little cheaper. If they were cheaper, I would have a ton of interest. It's a little tough to get to them. Bichette at 5,700, Vlad at 5,500, Springer at 5,300, Chapman at 5,100. I want all those guys against a lefty because they've all crushed lefties throughout their career. I don't care really what they've done in a smaller sample this season. That I will have at least one premium Blue Jay stack just because, I mean, those 4 names right there. You mentioned Merrifield's been decent against lefties, or at least compared to some of his teammates. Kirk is 2,700. Certainly love that. Yeah, I'll have the Blue Jay stack.
Bassett is getting 50 hit hard, 57% by lefties this year, a 260 ISO, only striking out 24% of people, which isn't too bad. But against the Dodgers, it's not going to cut it. I think there's an argument to be made that the Dodgers could be the top team on this entire slate to stack for tournaments. You got high-priced, top-tier options like Freddie Freeman. who has been absolutely lights out lately. You got Mookie Betts, who is a righty, but he can hit anyone, and you can play him at a valuable position at second base. JD Martinez was out. He was out of the lineup on Monday. He may be out of the lineup again on Tuesday. And if he is, like Peralta, Outman, Hayward, that's a lot of lefties with some high upside that are very, very cheap. And then, of course, you got Max Muncy below 5K. I think he's in the cash game discussion and is arguably one of the top bats on the slate.
Yep, completely agree on Muncy. Too cheap, 4,800. Big time lefty power. Bassett's been smoked by lefties. Love all the outfielders. Hayward, Outman, Peralta. They're all cheap. They all hit left-handed. Betts is expensive. Probably not going to get played that often. Freeman is worth paying up for against Bassett. Love the Dodgers. I think I have Atlanta and Arizona slightly ahead. They'd be 3 for me, but they're absolutely in that top tier.
I agree with you 100%. And with that, we have completed our way through a 12-game slate. I tried to get it done in under an hour. Not quite. We got an hour and 1 minute
Pretty
so
close.
far. But still, a little time for the morning grind game. We'll rip through it nice and quick. Starting with a pitcher over 8K who you think is going to get 6 or more strikeouts. Who do you like for an expensive pitcher to go with?
Wait, you mean under 8K to get 6 strikeouts, right?
Yes, dang it! I knew it, and I even said it wrong this time. Our friend Derek Ringering in chat, he laid it out for me. He had it. He laid it right out, and I still said it wrong. So yes, under 8K to get 6 or more strikeouts.
Give me Alex Cobb. No strikeouts in his last start. He gets Oakland this time out. He's a better strikeout pitcher than that. I'm hoping the ownership stays low enough where I can load up on some Cobb today.
I like that. I think I agree that is probably the top choice, but I'm going to go with Michael Kopech. Maybe a little less safety than Cobb, but he definitely has the strikeout upside. Pitcher over 8K that you think is going to bust.
Give me Charlie Morton. Boston just doesn't strike out a bunch, so he needs to be pretty good, pretty clean, not give up many runs at all. And he's pitching in Fenway Park, which is a tough spot to limit runs against. So Morton at 9,300. Tough spotting in Boston.
Appreciate you leaving me the nice and easy one. I'm going to go with Julio Urias because he just is way too expensive. And I even if he was 7.5, I don't think I'd be playing him against the Blue Jays in this one outside maybe an MME position. Who do you got under 4K? Under 4K to hit to get 2 hits.
Oh, to get 2 hits, yeah.
Yeah. Home run one's next. Under 4K to get 2 hits.
Under 4K to get 2 hits. Give me Jeimer Candelario. Love how he sets up against the lefty. Had a big night Monday night. Like him to do it again.
Candelario, I like that one quite a bit. He's been a pretty consistently like a nice low-owned GPP play that nobody really often gets to, and he's been hitting with so much power this year. Under 4K to get 2 hits. Give me who do I want to go with here? I'm going to go Nate Lowe. Nate Lowe, under 4K, get me 2 hits. He's 3,900. What about over 4K to hit me a home run?
Give me Austin Riley in Fenway Park, facing a fly ball pitcher. Love this spot for the Braves. Love this spot for their right-handed power. Austin Riley.
I'm going to go with Max Muncy in this one, somebody we just talked about. Bassett really struggles against those lefties, and Muncy is one of the best left-handed power hitters in all of baseball. 2 players also that are pretty hot right now. 2 guys that are hitting for a ton of power consistently these last few games. It's been a 12-game slate. We're, of course, going to have a lot of content coming later in the day as well. I know I'm on Grinders Live. Keith, I'm not sure if you're going to be on Tuesday at all.
I'm on Crunch Time, I believe.
There it is. So you got me for Grinders Live. You got Keith for Crunch Time. We're going to have you covered. Thanks to everyone who tuned in live late at night. We're after midnight Eastern right now, and we still got 20 people watching us right now. So make sure you hit the like button. Make sure, even if you're watching us on YouTube tomorrow, you hit that like button as well. So on behalf of, Stevie, who's usually here holding it down, and of course myself, TJ, Keith joining me today. Thank you, everyone. This has been the Morning Grind, and we will see you tomorrow.